Let's get to the team that always seems to have the controversy, no matter what part of the season we are. We are in the offseason, and the Lakers are the most talked about team. Eric.
Yes.
What the hell are the Lakers doing?
2 words for you. Jake LaRavia. LaRavia?
LaRavia.
JL, baby. What are your thoughts?
We signed him, in the first hour of free agency? Around there? Somewhere around there. I forgot what time it was.
Yeah, right away.
I want to preface this with, I don't want to be disrespectful, but to be honest with you, when that came across breaking news, I had no idea who the hell he played for from before, like what the Inside NBA would say, and I did not know who he was at the time of the signing. Okay? Now, once I settled down and realized who he was, and I remember seeing him play for Memphis, playing against the Lakers. He kind of went back and forth a little bit in that game, and I kind of remember his game a little bit from that. I didn't remember him much from Sacramento because I wasn't really invested in Memphis trading in Sacramento at that time. But yeah, my initial reaction was, this is who we signed, and this is coming off of us losing Dorian-Finney Smith. Right. So we just lost Dorian-Finney Smith, who's arguably our best defender, a 3-and-D guy that we've traded a first-round pick and D'Angelo Russell for. And then you're telling me we signed Jake from State Farm. No, sorry, not from State Farm. Jake LaRavia.
LaRavia. Jake from State Farm.
That was honestly my initial reaction to it. What was yours?
Yeah, look. As Laker fans, we hope that he's solid, and all signs are pointing towards that. I think he's going to be a decent piece. But when you lead up to free agency, we always see, we look at the free agency board, we look at players that teams are perhaps looking at. And so we expect to see those names, and it rarely happens. There's so much out there. And so when I saw his name pop up, I thought the same. So I really started to think about it. And I kind of remembered him, I believe, at Wake Forest a bit. Yeah. He was a first-round pick in 2022, so definitely no scrub. It wasn't like, oh, we're getting a guy who was a first-round pick in 2017, and we hope he pans out. No, it's still a few years ago, and he's still a work in progress. It's just, as a Laker fan, it was just funny for us because we're expecting, like, this huge thing, right? Even though we got the hugest thing ever – sorry, you can't see my hands – hugest thing ever with a Luka deal – we just expect more of that, and we're just the most impatient bunch out there. We'll admit it. I'll admit it at least. And so when we saw that, we kind of chuckled, like, who the heck is this? But all, kidding aside, hopefully, that is someone that is of value. But we know we're expecting, which I was going to ask you about the DFS thing in a couple seconds, but we know we need a wing. We know we need a center. And those two things are not sitting on our lap right now, and we're frustrated. Doc, are we going to get those positions figured out, worked out in the next couple of days here?
To be honest, I think the center position and the wing position is going to come through trade. Like I mean, I'm looking and I keep trying to dive into these free agents that are left and try to make players, into players that we need. But to be honest with you, I think it's going to have to come from a trade. Before we kind of jump to that, I would want to say the dude is a shooter, Jake, right? He shot 43% from three. So it makes sense for a Luka and LeBron-led team to have shooters on the team. I don't doubt that. Any doubt with that. I just think it's kind of redundant with the Dalton Connect. So Dalton Connect was already traded. So I can imagine he will be in any trade that they do this offseason. So I feel like, yes, we're replacing, if you try not to think about DFS in that way, but you think about we're replacing Dalton Connect with Jake LaRavia, I think that's a solid move. Now, getting back to your point, I honestly think it's going to have to be a trade. Yes, there's DeAndre Ayton, right? And
Agreed.
and I want to say, if the Lakers were completely satisfied with having him as their starting center, he would have been signed already. Because Jordan Clarkson got bought out and about 10 minutes later signed with the Knicks, right? So is he waiting for a bigger payday? Possibly. I mean, that could be it. I'm not saying that he's not. I just think if he wanted to be on the Lakers right now, he would be on the Lakers. It would be a done deal. And I think there's some reservation on both ends. One being the Lakers is I know he's a name, but is he the perfect fit for a Luka-led team? And then on his end, I think he knows he can only get a certain amount because Jake LaRavia took some of the money as far as the MLE, so he's only going to be able to get about that the $7 to $8 million range per year. So to be honest, that's not that much for a DeAndre Ayton, like coming off of what type of contract he's had and the type of player that he can get paid. I mean, just saw Miles Turner get $100 and some million, right? So I'm sure he's like, I can get at least a 4-year, $80 million deal, right, in free agency.
Yeah, DeAndre Ayton. So, I mean, for you guys out there, we know that he is not eligible to sign with anybody until tomorrow afternoon, but we also know that typically we would have heard something by now. We think, DeAndre Ayton plans to sign with X, right? And so that kind of tells me, I don't want to say Lakers are having cold feet, but what I'm trying to figure out is who needs the other more. Do the Lakers need DeAndre Ayton more, or does DeAndre Ayton really need the Lakers? And I say that from an Ayton perspective because he is, I don't know. I mean, maybe he's not even looking to kind of change what his rep is. Maybe he doesn't care. But if he is someone that cares about money, I'm sure he does, he is playing for that next contract. And so is he going to get that going to Charlotte and putting up 15 and 10 and losing? Or is he going to earn that, come into a, maybe contender, being in the bright lights, having expectation? We know, us Laker fans, we're going to be on his ass every game, but we're also going to praise him when he comes in and he does well. So that's what I've been kind of pondering, like who needs one or the other more, because Lakers need a big man badly. And so Brook Lopez was out there, Clint Capella was out there. We had our thoughts about them, but that doesn't matter anymore because they're done or they're gone. Al Horford is still there. And it's just, it'll be interesting to see when he officially clears waivers tomorrow, I believe at 2 p.m. Pacific, where he's going to go, because there's probably not a lot of options either, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. There's not that much cap space in general. I thought, it's funny because Indiana, originally signed him right a couple years back.
Oh, the offer sheet. That's right.
The offer sheet, and then Phoenix.
Yeah, he was restricted.
Phoenix matched it at the end, right? So I thought, does that make some sense for them, lose Miles Turner and at least to stay relevant in the East? I think it does, and I think that's probably going to be a factor in it. I just don't know if he's the defensive presence that we need for the Lakers when that's our toughest spot is defense. Having Luka, Austin Reeves, losing DFS, right? We got players like Vando that can play defense, but he's just not. We saw it last year when he came back healthy. JJ didn't play him as much, and he was getting a max of 20, 22 minutes a game. So defensively, I don't know if we're trying to funnel everybody to our big, if he's the big that we can funnel to, because he hasn't been known for his defensive prowess, right? So I still think they're looking for the athletic big that can catch lobs and play defense, right? And then if they were to get Ayton, you would have both of those, which I think would be a good possibility for them, right? Just to have two athletic big men that can play that are young. Oh, yeah. And I would be completely satisfied with that, because then you can, say you got one of those young guys that they traded for. Obviously the Mark Williams type. Obviously that can't happen anymore. but somebody like that in this league that you can play him, and then you got DeAndre Ayton for your offense, right? So you can kind of interchange them and play him in that fashion there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that idea that Ayton shouldn't be our savior, but he should be just another piece in a with front court depth. And so if you can make that trade, I know there's some names floating out there. Get that athleticism, get that rim protection, with the wrinkle of having maybe Ayton start, right? Depending on things. That would actually sound pretty good. It's kind of a win-win. If Ayton misbehaves or he doesn't like his role, we're only signing you hopefully to 1 year so you can see yourself out, right? Yeah. Or we just won't re-sign you next year, or we'll let you walk, which may happen anyways. It might be just a 1 year thing. Anyways, right? Maybe another year. Because we know we're waiting for that 2027, which I'll get into in a second.
Yeah, but I was about to say, why don't we get into that? Because we've heard some rumors, and when you hear it enough, you kind of realize that they're probably somewhat true. You hear it from multiple sources, right? David McManaman, you're hearing it from Mark Spear, you're hearing it from all these people, right? Brian Windhurst, that the Lakers are only planning on giving players 2-year deals, and in hope to have the cap space in 27 to sign a max player. And we've heard this story.
All too familiar.
I don't know, the last 10 years. And even in the LeBron time, it was like they won the championship. And instead of coming back with that same roster, they said, we only want to sign guys for a year, and maybe give them like the 1 year option or whatever after that. And that cost us a lot in free agency, like being able to sign people, because we can sign somebody for 3 or 4 years because they were trying to cover that window, right? And maintain their flexibility. It didn't really work, right? I mean, we didn't win anything else after that point, right? Did we get Luka in? That didn't really have anything to do with it, I don't think, right? No. So the idea of trying to save hypothetical cap space when you're in a win now franchise or win now mode with LeBron and Luka does not make sense.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, the 2027, I think you touched on it. As Laker fans, look, we've had a lot of great years, and we probably sound spoiled, but we have heard this far too many times, where it's like, we're just going to sign 1 year deals, just because there's a maybe there's not even really a free agency class coming, but we're looking 2 years ahead, where it's like, hey, we have Luka in his prime, like let's take advantage of that, right? And so that brings me to my next question or point. So Dorian-Finney Smith, in my opinion, because they were not wanting to go longer than the 2 years, that's the reason he's gone. I believe he wanted to stay with the Lakers, but I talked about it a couple of days ago. He's 32. This is probably his last chance at a decent-sized contract, and I can't blame him for taking it. 4 years, $54 million. That was a little bit too rich in the amount of years for the Lakers. I think it's a little bit bad for business. You trade all these second-round draft picks to get him last year. You had to have known that has an option coming up. I don't know if they were blindsided. I mean, they had to have known that he was going to perhaps decline that option. That was they traded obviously not Westbrook. They traded D'Lo as well, and so they got a half year with him. So I guess I'll pose a question. So if they would have signed him for the 4 years, I think we would have got probably the most out of him this year and next. I think year 3 and 4 it could have been. I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. And then that is that time that we probably could have used that space to maybe go after someone. This is what the Lakers were thinking about. But in my opinion, if you get 2 years through the deal, you got 2 years left, I believe that contract becomes more tradable, right? The last year, most definitely. And so I don't know why we didn't really think about that. I mean, I'm sure we did. Lakers probably did. But they really, really probably outthought themselves here with that. And what were your kind of initial reactions to it?
Yeah, it goes back to that same thing. When you sign these guys, you have tradable contracts, and so I don't really understand where say, hey, we're only going to do 2 years, and I think they messed up trying to negotiate the extension. From what I heard is they were pretty much lowballing him on the extension. He kind of got disrespected about it, and then if the rumors are true, I sure hope not. Rob was kind of bad mouthing about his knee, even though he's coming off of ankle surgery already. Right. So, and then he's talking about, oh, he has a knee issue as well. And if that's the case, that's not good juju. And I sure hope that's not the case. But if any of those rumors are true, that's pretty crazy. But yeah,
you put it past Rob, but
you can have tradable contracts. It goes back to the whole Caruso thing. We didn't want to give him $9 million a year for 3 years. And 3 years.
I know.
$9 million.
I know.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, even if you got that as a deal, he's such a great player that's a tradable contract. And obviously, he was a tradable contract. I got traded to OKC, right? Like, he had a contract that's a value. And so I just think that's, if you're trying to take in guys, and the thing that bothers me the most is, especially when you're trying to sign Luka to an extension, that was Luka's closest teammate. He was super happy to have him there when he transitioned to the Lakers around the same time, right? So, I don't think that's good. It looks good on the Lakers, and I don't think that looks good in front of Luka. Those are my 2 things with it.
Yeah, like we don't know if it's going to make or break anything, but why would you want it? Luka hasn't re-signed, and last time I checked, right, he's going to be a free agent next season. And so that's like, you kind of have to make decisions, not like, you have to make smart decisions, don't get me wrong, but you really have to think outside the box, and you got to know that, hey, this guy does all the little things. And not only that, he's our superstars, one of the guys he's really comfortable with. And maybe that is worth more than, we could even look at a stat sheet and kind of realize what it is, right? And so that was tough, man, because he played a lot of big minutes in the playoffs. I mean, we obviously know it was a disappointing playoffs, but it wasn't, because of him. And so I know he had ankle surgery, and we'll see how he comes out and plays next year. But Rockets got them somebody that is 100% sure, certain.